Shakespeare's tragedies is one of the three categories that his plays have been divided into, together with comedies and history. Shakespeare's main character is usually a rich, wealthy person with a fatal flaw. This flaw is usually one of the reasons the main character's lives become a disaster and eventually leads to the character's tragic death, which leads us to one of the biggest characteristics of his tragedies: everyone dies. The main character is often manipulated by supernatural events like spirits or other people like barons. Typical for the tragedy, the main character discovers a solution to his problems, but it shows to no avail. The main characters sometimes have some sort of mental illness, or at least they seem to be just a tiny bit insane sometimes. This is especially shown in the story of Hamlet.
Hamlet was written in 1599 to 1601. In Hamlet, the tragic genre shows by the character of Hamlet. He's a prince who feigns to be insane, but in the end he ends up becoming what he has been pretending to be. This is after several deaths of his loved ones, one of them being his beloved Ophelia. Also, the maiden Ophelia ends up becoming insane throughout the course of the story, which just makes the theme of insanity much more central. The spiritual guidance is received from a ghost of his deceased father, who comes to tell him that the current king, Hamlet's uncle, was his murderer, and Hamlet is persuaded to kill him. This shows the manipulation from a supernatural person. Hamlet is just about to achieve his revenge in the end, but as all Shakespeare's tragic stories, in the end it doesn't suffice. The last big example of a tragic story is the death of characters in the end, where he is stabbed to death in a duel by a poisoned sword. Hamlet is the one story by Shakespeare where literally almost every single character dies.
Romeo and Juliet, from 1591 to 1595. In this play, the characters' tragic flaw is their love for each other. Love makes them blind to everything that happens around them, which makes love their tragic flaw. Also, this devotion leads to the death of other characters. For example, dies both Romeo's best friend Mercutio in a duel against Juliet's cousin Tybalt, a duel that Romeo refused to fight. Blinded by the pain of losing his best friend, Romeo duels with Tybalt and kills him. The manipulating characters in this case happens to be the young Juliet's and Romeo's parents, who are in strict determination that they can never be together. In the end, they have a very tragic death, and Romeo's tragic flaw is unlimited love, makes it his downfall. It also becomes Juliet's, since she is horrified and she wakes up and finds her lover killed. It seems that Shakespeare have a thing for dying from poison.
Macbeth, from 1603 to 1607. In Macbeth, the supernatural are even more essential, since the witches are the ones who provide the prophecies. Macbeth is manipulated by his wife, known as Lady Macbeth, because she wants the king dead but doesn't want blood on her hands. So she manipulates Macbeth to do the dirty work for her. In the end, he dies a tragic death in a duel against Macduff, who wants revenge on him for killing the king. Everything runs in a circle of revenge all the time. Macbeth's fatal flaw is that he is too easily manipulated and pushed around by others. He could have stood his ground and decided that if he were meant to become king, it would happen on his own, and he didn't have to kill others to get there. This fatal flaw sadly ended up bringing Macbeth to his Macbeth.
Conclusion. In all of Shakespeare's plays, there is a sense of pride to all the characters, and they always seem to have a great status. But in the end, they are victims for a tragic flaw, or manipulation by supernatural events, people or society. That leads to their tragic downfall. The tragedies are also characterized by a certain amount of suicide, murder, and death by poison.